right? This actually sometimes referenced as gesture. So when you meditate, you might, this is a mudra, this is a mudra, I don't know. There's all sorts of different mudras. Mudra also can mean seal, as in like a stamp onto something. With many Sanskrit words, there are many ways to translate it. There's not a one-to-one relationship, and it depends on the context it's used. Maha means great, or greater, Mahamudra, great seal. It's introduced here in an interesting, different context. Mahamudra here means the direct perception of emptiness. All right, you want to try another Mushi Musam?
Yeah.
Let's give it a try. We'll work this one out together. So the reason let's talk about Mahamudra, the direct perception of emptiness, which is part of the third path or correct view, where you have a direct realization, a topa of correct view, and it would be a direct perception of emptiness. So, as a result, we want to see if the three principal paths can produce a result of the direct perception of emptiness. And if you can, why not do it? All right, so what's our A and B here? Let's try to get this correct. So A is direct perception of emptiness. So we'll do once again, we're trying to prove the importance of the three principal paths in our spiritual progress. So let's look at A and not B. Can we have a case where we would have the direct perception of emptiness, but not the three principal paths? In our case, we'd say no.
It's like, what does the three principal paths include? Is what was going through my mind. So
it includes all of them together.
Yeah.
All renunciation, bodhicitta, and correct view all together are required. You wouldn't have a case where you'd be able to reach the direct perception of emptiness without using the three principal paths.
Okay.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Like if you did not
Although-
have bodhicitta, could you not have a direct perception of
Bodhicitta alone, you'd have a direct perception of bodhicitta. Now remember, the direct perception of emptiness is a karmic shift. You may have practiced three principal paths in a previous life perfectly to have that karma in this life. All right, but the seeds for something that virtuous and that perfect, of that much wisdom, could only come from imbuing your activities and intention and all of the things you do with the three principal paths. Okay, can you have a case where you can have the three principal paths but not the direct perception of emptiness? Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Could you have a case where you can have direct perception of emptiness and the three principal paths? Yes.
Yeah.
Could you have a case where you could have neither? Of course. Yes. So there you go.
new song?
Maybe some, another three. So Richard was asking me at the break about this type of thing, and you can, as your meditation practice for the next week, kind of do some of these in your meditation, do an analytical meditation, and take any two. You don't have to take these two. Say renunciation and a job. Can I have a job and still have renunciation? You know, can I develop renunciation and still like want to invest in a retirement fund. I don't know. Still buy a new iPhone or something. So debate that with yourself.
What does it prove again, though? You're saying it proves that they...
Ultimately, what we're trying... Oh, you mean in general, the
In general, yeah.
That there's a relationship between those two things, and that all existing things fall within that relationship. And if there is that relationship, then that relationship is a valid existence. It exists validly?
Like, could you do banana and orange?
You could and see what you come up with, yeah.
Okay. Just to see.
Can you do it now?
Can you narrow it down?
No, could you do it right now? Like,
Oh.
could you do A, banana,
help us
or wait, no. A, orange, B, banana?
Yeah, let's do B is for banana. How about apple and banana? A.
Alright, there you go.
Alright, so we'll do it together.
Okay.
Can you have an apple and not a banana?
Yes.
Yes.
Can you have a banana and not an apple?
Yes.
Can you have both?
Yeah.
Yes.
No, one object is either a banana or apple.
Oh, I see, yeah. I'm thinking like in terms of physically
you
having
eat?
it.
Could you have as a
Genetically modified.
No, okay, so...
Apple.
Like, yeah, I have apples and bananas all the time.
So that's enough. And you have neither A or B.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A pen
So-
is neither a banana or an apple. Right.
Okay.
Now, what did we get there?
3.
3.
Right. So we had 3 yeses and 1 no.
So
So
that
there
means...
is a relationship, so what does that mean again?
Right.
No, what does that mean?
Well, it means there's
There's a valid what?
there's a valid relationship between the two. So when
So
you're choosing
it is-
when you've got something important like cause and effect,
Yeah.
like what's causing direct perception of emptiness, what are the causes for Buddhahood? You want to establish those relationships because then you want to do them. And as I said, you eliminate then on the negative side those things that don't produce those causes. And so by identifying the relationships that exist, you eliminate the relationships that don't exist, and you avoid those. It does. Maybe it's obviously more valid based on the relationship, whatever the two that you choose. I'm not going to claim the master in Mushi Muslim.
Do you... I don't know if we have time, but do you have any examples where it doesn't work? Where there's no mushi or muslim?
I had one earlier.
Using the one with blue or the sound.
You could use the non-virtue in Buddhahood or something
Well,
like that?
let's do this one. The sky is red.
Yeah.
Why would you say that?
So, a lot of this all comes out of debate ground and Buddhist debate. So in a debate, the way you would propose it is I would go into a debate and I would be the one debating and I'd debate with someone and I'd say, so, and I'd do it on the negative. So the 3 paths are not required for the direct perception of emptiness. And I'd say, right? And he'd say, no, they are, because there are 3 of these 4 match up. See, there's a context to things.
Right.
I don't know what the context between apple and banana is. But in a debate ground, I would challenge someone to say, there's no relationship, right? And he has to prove a relationship. And he could just memorize text and say, Jitsongkhapa said this, or the Buddha said this, or he could do this. And he said, look, it's a relationship with 3 out of the 4 ways everything can exist, and therefore it's valid. I'm going to just, sit on it for a while and see if it works for you. That's the context of it.
But if we do satisfy the requirement that there are either 3 or 4 of these conditions which are met, then we have established that there's a relationship. But so what? There's a relationship. What does that lead us to conclude?
It would help you.
There's a valid...
Yeah, it's a
valid
great
what?
question. I have that same kind of question with some logic. Like, where does it take you from there?
Yeah.
I think the best way to go from there is to say, okay, because there is that relationship, it's something that is important. Let's start with there. That's something which is proven, that it removes any doubt that there's a relationship between the 3 principal paths and the direct perception of emptiness.
But it doesn't prove cause and effect necessarily.
No,
This shows
no.
It proves relationship.
Correct.
A
It does.
the word valid's a tricky word.
Ah.
A valid relationship?
Yes, it is a tricky word, and especially in logic. Like, what is a valid perception? What is a valid statement?
just means that it works.
Yeah.
Like the argument works. Like the premise proves the conclusion.
In sentential logic, yes. Validity is just a sound proof. But in this, I don't know.
Isn't that all we're saying too here?
Yeah, it's simple logic, this one. It really is. We're not going much beyond that. And hopefully what you take away from it is that it does help sink things in and remove some doubt and is a benefit to you. Because then you couldn't say, there is no relationship between these two. Therefore, if I want A, I'm not going to do B. You wouldn't, because if you want A, you would do B. It helps. It might chink away the armor of doubt a little bit and some things.
I mean, if you wanted to refine your understanding, I think at this point, if you don't really know what the three principal paths are or Buddhahood, so we're going on, well, we're going on something that's already been established. To say, well, is it worthwhile? Like, is it worthwhile for us to even go further to study this?
Yeah.
And then once we do study it, and you want to refine your understanding of it, like more exacting, like, well, how does bodhicitta help you get to Buddhahood? You start to be able to get a little bit deeper into it. But you need some context, and it's hard to work from. We could break it down to really doing this, but it would take probably some time. We'd have to, well, what is renunciation? What does it mean to you? What does it mean to you? And so to establish something this broad actually would take a lot more work, but we're just refining it to kick us off.
In logic in general, you have to agree on the premises
Yes.
to start. Because you can always try and prove the premise.
Right.
Which is
So
one
if
of
we
the
do that
early
here, it
principles
just
of
would
logic.
it would just take a lot more
It would.
time. It'd be easy to do after the course when we know what the actual
There's two
paths
levels of
are.
logic that has been taught. One is in course 4, which is for proving future lives, and the other one is course 13, which is for reasoning. So it's just not part of this course. It'll be interesting though at the end, at the last class, to go back to this once we've had a little more in depth on the three paths.
Yeah, like does it? Like
And
in our
does
own
it make
understanding,
sense?
because we're trying to prove it to ourselves. Is this worthwhile to study? Is it worthwhile to put our time into it or go out?
Which is exactly Pabonka Rinpoche's context here. Is it worth our while? We're proving why we should be studying the three principal paths. Why do you need this book? Why should you study these 14 verses? And this is supposed to help. I hope.
Because then we have to get into what's Buddhahood.
We'll get there. We'll get there. So where am I? Okay, we did Mahamudra. And Mahamudra, direct perception of emptiness. So that's why we went into that. All right, so you may have heard let's just say, there's two groups of causes for Buddhahood, kind of like two collections. Are they let's see. There's two, they say, you probably heard it, there's two wings of a bird to fly, right? And they say to achieve Buddhahood, you need both wings. And those wings are, well, method and wisdom. And method is a form of compassion. Compassion is in the method side. So there's method and wisdom are two causes, and they're required for Buddhahood. Okay? The three paths contribute to these two causes. Of the three paths, renunciation, bodhicitta, and correct view, which do you think contributes to the first cause, which is method?
Definitely one, I would say. Definitely one being renunciation.
And in what way?
How does it contribute to the method? Well, maybe motivation.
Okay, we definitely say the second path, which is bodhicitta.
Yeah.
Bodhicitta falls in the method side of things, and compassion falls in there. So It's a direct, much more direct. The direct cause of the wisdom side of attaining Buddhahood, and the wisdom cause would be correct view. So we've got 2 out of the 3 paths now as direct causes, which are in themselves creating results which are direct causes for Buddhahood. So we're once again trying to prove why these 3 paths are important in your practice to attain the goals. So where does renunciation fit in? You've got method and wisdom covered by bodhicitta and correct view. You've got an odd relationship. You've got 3 to get into 2. So there's 2 ways renunciation fits in, Richard. One is that it's a preliminary for bodhicitta. You need to have a disgust for this world and this life for yourself before you can help others with their elimination of everything that's causing their suffering in this world and helping them escape the suffering of life. You cannot help someone else escape samsara if you yourself want to stay in samsara. So renunciation helps you with that desire to begin with. Like, I want to get out of the suffering life myself, and then you go further with bodhicitta and say, because I want that intention myself, I can now help other people do it. There's another way that renunciation is important. Renunciation is kind of like an energy field that covers both wisdom and method. Renunciation is in a way required for correct view as well. The correct understanding